Theros Beyond Death has been littered with spicy goodies for Standard, Commander, Pioneer, pretty much everything that you could want to play, huh?
Yeah, for a long time, Clackbridge Troll kind of stood alone as the premier Hushbringer target, but we're going to talk about a new deck that's going to be taking off in Pioneer, and it starts right now. Hello and welcome to the day.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
I'm Jake.
I'm Joel. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. We are going to talk about Kroxa and Haktos in Pioneer in just a second. But first, if this is your first video with us, welcome. We appreciate your time. If you want to stay up to the minute with the latest decks and strategy for Pioneer, Commander, Historic, Standard, Brawl, you want to talk about MTG Finance, news and specs, or you just want to see us open some booster packs, make sure you hit that subscribe button before you leave.
You must do it. All right, let's get into the video.
Yeah, let's talk about these cards. So, we had this card spoiled a couple days ago. Kroxa, Titan of Death's Hunger. Let's go through it since it's brand new. Black, red, 6/6, and it enters the battlefield. Sacrifice it unless it escaped, which is a new keyword. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, each opponent discards a card. Then, we have the most strangely worded phrase I've ever seen on a Magic card. Then, each opponent who didn't discard a non-land card this way loses 3 life. So, that's confusing. We like the part that says, enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless it escaped, right?
Yeah, I mean, it all comes back to this weird, janky modern deck that we've been talking about forever and ever, built around the card Torpor Orb from New Phyrexia.
Yep.
And so it's just a card that shuts down enter the battlefield abilities. So for a long time, the card is Hunted Horror that plays alongside Kroxa is like... or Hunted Horror is the premier 2-drop in the Torpor Orb deck. So now that Kroxa has been spoiled, this is great redundancy. Now we have a Hunted Horror and we have a Kroxa, but we are talking about Pioneer, but this is huge for enter the battlefield effects. We're going to talk about all of the ETB 2-drops that we need to play. But yeah, this is kind of like, this is a great, cool card. And if you could shut down the ETB, it's huge pressure early.
Yeah, Jake is hinting at something that we talked about. Essentially, we were looking at this in the Torpor Orb deck, and that's what the video was originally going to be. But then we started looking through the cards, and I was like, dog, most of these are Pioneer legal. I think that we could kind of upshift this a little bit, especially because we've got the redundancy that we need. The other big card that we really like for this deck is Haktos the Unscarred. Okay, so attacks each combat of Fable. He's white, white, red, red. Attacks each combat of Fable. As it enters the battlefield, choose 2, 3, or 4 at random. Haktos has protection from each CMC other than the chosen number. So he can either be hit by 2 converted mana cost, 3 converted mana cost, or 4 converted mana cost spells and creatures. Now, if we can turn off that ETB, you already see where this is going. I don't think we have to hold your hand. It turns into like this true name nemesis that attacks for 6. It's insane.
But like way worse.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's just like, and so, true name nemesis is like big mean brother.
Right.
But if you're not following the lore,
resolve
it's Achilles.
And go. Yeah, it's Achilles. You're exactly right. There's a heal, really cool. And that's all they've got. But what we're going to try and do is dip Haktos fully in the River Styx so that there is no Achilles heel. Look at that Greek mythology coming out to play.
I love it.
That is the basics. If we can, I mean, pretty much I would expect if we can resolve a Haktos with a Husher on the field, then you're probably going to win. I don't see how you couldn't win. That's like 3 swings puts them at 2. And we only got to come up with 2 other damage or swing a 4th time before they can kill us. So let's look at what we've got. And that's not
if you have like a Kraxos on the field or something.
Exactly.
Either,
exactly. Because Kraxos can enter as soon as turn 2. Potentially. Right. As soon as turn 3, really, in this deck with a Husher on the battlefield. So speaking of Hushers, this is what we've got. We've got Hushbringer. Entering the battlefield doesn't cause abilities to trigger. Flyer and Lifelink, which is going to be relevant later when we talk. We've got Tocatli Honor Guard, which, again, just redundancy on the ability. Enter the battlefield doesn't cause abilities to trigger.
The 3-butt is attractive on that card,
3-butt is attractive, especially in a format where Burn is one of the premier decks. And Hushwing Gryff, which is a flash flyer. ETBs don't cause abilities to trigger.
So the big difference with this card is it's a converted mana cost of 3, whereas the previous 2 are more desirable. Obviously, if we had Torpor Orb, we would be running that over Hushbringer. But Hushbringer is still great because on your opponent's EOT, you're flashing it in, and then you're ready to go at your upkeep.
Yeah, that's a fantastic
your
point.
big guy.
You've got Hushwing on their EOT. If they tap out, you Hushwing on their EOT, and you can resolve Haktos the next turn. That's going to be huge, absolutely huge. Now we think that the breakdown, because it is 2 CMC and Gryff is 3 CMC, we think like 4 each of Hushbringer and Tocatli Honor Guard, and then like 2 Hushwings, so that gives us 10 Hushers to potentially keep, these ETBs from happening. We've also got another fun little toy that can help build in some redundancy of our payoff and give us a 9th and 10th payoff for this, because we're thinking 4 Kroxa, 4 Haktos, and 2 Inverter of Truth. When it enters the battlefield, exile all cards from your library, then shuffle all cards from your graveyard into your library. How about just a 6/6 flyer for 4?
Yeah, dude, I think it's... honestly, in Pioneer, I think it's good. Yeah. I think a 6/6 flyer for 4 is good. I think in Modern, it's just not fast enough. And that's the big thing that I've run into with playing this deck pre-Haktos and pre
the Torpor Orb version with like
the Torpor Orb version in Modern
and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a great fun deck, but it's just a little bit too slow, and so I really do think that Pioneer is going to be the place for this kind of archetype to shine. This is a fun archetype that people have kind of tinkered around with, and I hope that it can really take off.
Now, one of the problems with playing this archetype, and at least especially this version of the deck in Pioneer, is going to be the mana base. We're going to have so many shock lands. 3-color decks in general aren't that great in Pioneer. You probably want to try and run it as a 2-color deck, but we're going to, at least out of the gate, we're going to try and make our ambitions lofty and make it a 3-color deck. So we think we're going to run things like Thrill of Possibility, Cathartic Reunion, to maybe try and smooth out the mana base a little bit. It also puts cards into the graveyard for Kroxa, because if Kroxa dies, we can just escape it, and it's still a really good card, even if we're not turning off the ETB. And the same can be said for Haktos. Haktos is still a really good card, even if we don't turn off the ETB. It's just busted if we can turn off the ETB. That's all we're doing, is taking good cards, maybe even great cards, and making them fantastic. That's really the entire point of this. So we smoothed out the mana base a little bit with Thrill of Possibility or Cathartic Reunion, but with all the shock lands, we were building this deck and we're going, okay, so we're going to have a problem with life in this deck, especially in format where we got Burn running around, we got Mono Green Ramp running around, and there's a ton of quick damage. You're going to be at 10 before you know it. If you shock yourself 3 times, what do you do? So
yeah, that's true.
Obviously, we've got a very good card here, Collective Brutality. It's not a big mystery to anybody. It's not a brand new, super secret tech. But because of that third mode of Sorin's Thirst type ability down there, and the other 2 modes being very relevant, I think that this card becomes a 4 of in the deck.
Yeah, between being able to drain your opponent to gain 2 life back, and also the lifelink that comes with Hushbringer, I think this is a good step in the right direction. And it's something that you really do have to think about, because the idea is just to get the mana base online, because I think the deck is there. I think the idea is there. I've tested the deck in Modern, and I know that it can get wins in the right meta. And I think in Pioneer, it really is just going to be about how do we mitigate this life lost. And I think it really is going to come down to Collective Brutality and Hushbringer.
Yeah, I completely agree. So as far as some of the other cards that we've thought about for the main board, obviously black is in this deck. We need a 1-drop. We're running Thoughtseize. We also want to get those counter spells out of their hands. Collective Brutality can help with that, but Thoughtseize is going to be the first line of defense against counter spells and against removal early of our Hushers, because we only have 10 Hushers and we don't have any way of recurring them. So if we have one, we really want it to stick. And hopefully we have a backup, because once they see in game 1 what the game plan is, they're going to go after the Hushers first. And that could even benefit you if you know going into sideboarding that they're going to go after the Hushers, and that's where the removal is going to be aimed. Kroxa and Haktos are going to maybe have a little bit easier of a time hitting the battlefield and sticking. We're also going to run we were thinking about Integrity Intervention. Integrity Intervention is going to save the Hushers from burn spells because it's going to be able to give them +2/+2 on the Integrity side. And then Intervention is a 4-cost Lightning Helix, so it's going to act as some removal and also, again, kind of give us some life back from all of the land burn that we're taking. Jake, did you have any other ideas for the main board of this deck before we talk about sideboard?
No, the only other thing that I would consider in the main board is just another card that I've been increasingly impressed with, which is Bonecrusher Giant, just because it comes with the Stomp side, which is going to answer a lot of the pesky mana dorks that exist in the format, and other really important creatures.
Mage, Kari Zev.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of X2s in the format that are really, really important, and being able to answer those, and then later on, off the exact same card, play a card that is by itself a threat. It doesn't require Hushbringer to make it good. It's just a straight up 4/3 beater. If they target it, it's dealing damage to them as well, which is going to help with Haktos. So that's a card that I'm really high on, but I think that's just me. I know other people like it, but
yeah. Absolutely. So the next thing would be, what are the sideboard considerations in a deck like this? Obviously, you're going to have access to Duress or Fry when we go up against the blue-white control, which has really come to the surface with all the bannings at the end of last year. I would say for decks like Phoenix, you've got Tormod's Crypt, you've got Leyline of the Void. Bantu's Last Reckoning is actually a card I've seen bouncing around in sideboards for some of the more go-wide strategies. Especially for what's it called? The Boggles decks that have bounced around, and even I would say the Hardened Scales decks would really kind of bend over to a Bantu's Last Reckoning style.
Also, a well-placed Ashiok versus the right deck can swing a game by itself. Just the baby Ashiok that, if you resolve it at the right time when they don't have threats or their Phoenixes are in the yard, that can sometimes be a scoop by itself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. A Braid obviously is going to be great against decks where we need to either kill all the things or destroy artifacts. And then I've seen that Nyx Fleece Ram. Jake, are you familiar with this card? I should have pulled the art for it. It is a 1-drop 0/5. At the beginning of your upkeep, you gain 1 life. That's all.
Yeah.
This card has been a sideboard
It's an enchantment
card.
Creature, right?
Yep. You're absolutely right. It's come in against burn decks recently, I think, and also it kind of plays really well with our deck. We know we're going to be kind of stabbing ourselves to get the mana online that we need online, the colors of mana anyway, and I think that could be a huge card out of the sideboard.
Yeah, it's a card that really is vexing to especially the burn player or the aggro player that's really just trying to get you below that threshold, because some of those decks are really focused, and where our deck is running Thrill of Possibility and Cathartic Reunion specifically for that velocity, we're going to be pitching lands to try to make sure we're fixing our mana base. We might be pitching creatures that we don't need because there's a lot of legendaries in our deck, and so there's a lot of redundancy. There's a lot of room for us to pitch cards.
So we really like how Kroxa and Haktos look. Obviously, I think that they are going to have standard application, but just because this was an archetype of a deck that Jake had already previously messed around with not found the exact success he wanted, we thought that this was very relevant to talk about out of the gate. We are going to, as soon as this set is live on MTGO, we will be filming and throwing up a deck tech with our version of the list that we think will be the best version. So look for that about a week and a half after the set is released. We appreciate you watching. Like we said,
if there's anything that you think we missed, if there's like a card that you think is good for the sideboard or a card that you think is left out, something that's like a great ETB, please send it our way. Drop it in the comments. That's the kind of stuff that's going to help us out as we tune this deck and bring you a good deck tech.
Yeah, absolutely. We do need, any other ideas for creatures that have negative ETBs. Those are what this deck really loves. We appreciate you watching. If you wouldn't mind, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out. If you want to support us further, we got a Patreon. The link is down in the description below. And if you want to hang out, we stream most Tuesday and Thursday evenings over on Twitch. Link is also down in the description. Jake, I'm tapped out.
I'm tapped out, man. I can't wait to start abusing these ETB effects
I know,
to
I'm
great
excited for Theros.
success.
I'm ready to go.